Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to all my new followers. This week we're going to discuss a film. We're going to sort of review it, which is the Kodak ProImage 100. And we're going to discuss why I believe that it's definitely a professional grade film. And of course, online there's a heavy discussion or a debate whether or not it is a professional grade film or not. You know, it's the internet. Why wouldn't there be a discussion? But I definitely conform to the notion that it is a professional grade film and that you can certainly very comfortably use it for professional grade applications. And I'm going to try to underscore my point by going over some portraits in Lightroom that I've taken of my girlfriend and therefore try to prove my point or make a case for why I think that it is a professional grade film. Now, I often see online a review of a certain film, and this one's certainly no exception. And there's one roll that's been shot, and based off that one roll, a conclusion is drawn. I think that is rather silly. You need to shoot more rolls and try it under different circumstances to see whether or not that conclusion is accurate. You know, I've certainly shot more than one roll. I've shot two. No, I'm just kidding. I've definitely shot more than that. But I definitely think it's a wonderful film. It's very affordable. And you know, one point right off the bat that I guess we can argue about is it does say Kodak Professional. I mean, why would Kodak put that on there if it wasn't the case? And no, it's not available in medium format. It would be wonderful if it was available in medium format, but I don't think that is a valid point in then saying it's not a professional grade film. You have to look at the characteristics. And furthermore, I also believe, or am in the camp, that there is a film for every application. Now, you're free to use whichever film you want to use for what application. That's completely up to you. That's the beauty of it. You know, we are free to like what it is that we like. But I think that there are certain parameters by which you can tell whether or not a certain film is a professional grade film. Now guys, the gear that I've used to take these portraits, basically two lenses with the f100. Now the f100, again, marketed, you know, as a prosumer, but it's certainly a professional level camera. I mean, it does everything really great. And the one lens that I used is the 85 1.8D, which is razor sharp. You're about to see that. And then the second lens, which is a lens that I'm really a big fan of, is the the Tammy 45 1.8. Also very sharp. Now, both these lenses are wonderful for portraiture. This Tammy 45, I've used it for over a year with the f100 alone because it's just such a perfect all-day, everyday focal length, 45 millimeter, and very comfortable using it for portraits. But these lenses are more than sharp enough, and you know, as everybody who just starts out, I used to be obsessed with sharpness, like going into the details, which lens is the sharpest, which lens is this, but that's all nonsense. You'll reach a point where, especially in portraiture, you have that amount of sharpness that's more than enough. And both these lenses I would consider professional grade lenses, which is a whole nother discussion. But you can certainly use these lenses for professional purposes. But that's the gear that I've used. So guys, why don't we hop on the computer and go over some portraits, and I'll try to make my case. Guys, here we are in Lightroom, and this is the first portrait of my girlfriend. And right off the bat, we can see that this film is incredibly sharp. This is a film that's obviously marketed towards portraiture people. It has wonderful skin tones. Of course, I've scanned these with the Epson V550, which is definitely not the sharpest scanner, but it still does a wonderful job. But imagine scanning this in with a DSLR. You'll get so much more resolution. And speaking of resolution, this film resolves a lot of detail. This particular shot was the 85, and you can see just, how sharp. You can see the individual lashes, individual strands of hair, again scanned with a flat bed. Wonderful color reproduction. What this film does do also, if you see on the right side here, we see the dark areas, the underexposed areas, they don't get muddy. That is another parameter by which I gauge a film. Do the underexposed areas get muddy? They do close down. Some people say they stay open. It depends, but they don't get muddy. They're not awful to look at. And then once again, which is another sort of misconception, is the myth of the detail in the blacks. I mean, what detail do I need here in the blacks? With the film that's marketed towards portraiture, it's all about the face. And then plus, I've definitely had people wearing black clothes. It's very easy to get that detail out and have beautiful detail that's not muddy in blacks. But here we can see the sharpness of the film. Often this film is, compared to Portra, which is another comparison that I don't understand. Thank God this isn't Portra. Portra is a wonderful film, but isn't it wonderful to have more choice out there? I love this film. Super sharp here. Let's go to the second portrait here, which is a different lighting circumstance. I did this again to see what the, by the way, this is a Tamiya 45, but to see what the dark areas would do. You can see a little bit more contrast here as well with the Tamron. Wonderful lens, lots of character, but look at the sharpness, look at her eyes. They just pop, almost three-dimensional, this film. Very fine grain. Portra is a little finer, Portra 160, but then again, this is an older emulsion. For an older emulsion, it still performs excellently. Look at the skin tones. It's just wonderful. Again, the darker, the underexposed areas, they don't completely close down. But who needs detail here in the table? Who needs detail there? What's there to see? It's all about the subject itself. And we have plenty of detail in, her eyes. Everywhere else is just plenty of detail here. We'll move on to the next subject. Subject photo, this one, I opened up the lens to have a little bit less contrast in the 85. But still we see wonderful detail. Skin tones are reproduced very accurately. This is absolutely super accurate. The yellows aren't too overly done. Reds, they do get a little bit more saturated, but still we can see here in her lips that they're absolutely accurate. Very beautiful reproduction. Again, that sharpness, that incredible detail that it resolves. We do get those crushed blacks, but again, who needs detail here? What detail do you need there? And then so we'll move on. Here's another one where I deliberately just used one light. By the way, this is lit up with the 90 inch soft lighter, the Photech soft lighter with the screen up front. If you're familiar with that, you get incredibly soft light, but again, skin tones. Nothing muddy, nothing muddy in the, underexposed areas. Lots of detail, maybe even a bit too much. I've had, that's another thing. I've had no customer ever complain about, oh wow, that looks like it doesn't have as fine detail as Portra. That's never the first thing they'll say. I've never heard that. Or, oh my gosh, it doesn't have this or that silly parameter. But lots of detail here. Again, I mean, imagine scanning this in with an DSLR, which in the future I'll definitely get into. Speaking of muddy underexposed areas, this is Pro 400H. This is my son, obviously. But look at that. I mean, and that's a professional grade film, right? This is Pro 400H. This is absolutely hideous, in my opinion. This is probably why most people overexpose Pro 400H a stop or two. It then does look great. But if we're talking about underexposed areas, I mean, we don't see that here, right? We don't see that same stuff going on here. Very good. Now, moving on to a next photo, and this is the last photo. Again, we see that wonderful sharpness, accurate skin reproduction, just wonderful resolution here. Yeah, I mean, if this film would be available in medium format, everybody would be shooting it, and nobody would be saying, oh, this isn't a professional level film. It's just a wonderful film. I mean, I love it. Here is a shot that I took on a D700, my D700, just for comparison's sake. And here we go. Excuse me here, I'm a little new, but you can see the skin tones are a little different. Yeah, they're just different. With digital, as always, digital is sharp, but somebody once said, like, well, yeah, film isn't as sharp. You wouldn't see that here in print. If you were to print this at, even 8x12, you will not see a difference in sharpness between the two. But this is just a wonderful film, guys. I would recommend that you would buy it. And yeah, I mean, give it a shot, no pun intended. It's just a wonderful film. It has these wonderful characteristics, very sharp. I've had no issue with white balance, no issue whatsoever. I've shot it under, with 2 studio lights, no issues with white balance. I think that's where this film absolutely shines and where you need to shoot it. So, but this is my my case in point, guys. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed these portraits. Definitely think it's a professional level film. Well, guys, that is my plight for the Kodak ProImage 100. Yeah, in my opinion, an absolutely beautiful film. Pick up a roll. Yeah, it's just a wonderful film. Also, a lot has been said about it. Doesn't have the same dynamic range as Portra, and that is true. Portra is very forgiving, but often that translates into Portra absorbs our mistakes a little bit better. I like the challenge of exposing a film more accurately. It just makes you into a better photographer. I'm not saying shooting Portra doesn't. But if you think about it, back in the day, slide film was often used for prints in magazine, and slide film has even less dynamic range than negative print film. And so I think it's a wonderful film. Pick up a 5-pack, $25, $30. That's nothing. That's another big aspect. If you want that quality at a lesser price than Portra, because we all know Kodak up their prices 30%, but, you know, give it a, you know, you've got nothing to lose, give it a shot, you know. Buy a 5-pack and really shoot it under different circumstances. In my opinion, again, it's best under studio light, but I've also seen wonderful natural light portraits with it. And so that's my case, guys. As always, love you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.